Thanks.
Hakadosh Boker Tov Masechet Ketubot Daf 58A1. Says the Gemara, we said, if you remember, we were talking about what happens right now if you found that the Eved that you bought was a Ganav, right? Or it was a Kuvyusut. So he said, Higio. Why? Right? Why? Because at the end of the day, Stam Ganavim are going, Stam Avadim are Ganavim. Ma'ika, what's the big deal? Right? Then he says, if he's going to be a Listimus Yana Muktab Melchut, Hanau Kal Lehu. They have a call. They have a voice. What does that mean? Everyone knows about it. Everyone finds out this guy's most wanted, that this guy's this. You understand? So therefore, what happens is the person comes, and therefore he's going to know about it. And if he didn't know about it, it's his loss. Says the Gemara, Michdi. Let us see. Ben lemor, lo achla, whether according to Shitat Ula or according to Shitat Shemuel Bar Yehuda, an arusa does not eat truma. So my benayu. So what's the difference between them? What do I care if there's no difference in halacha between the two different reasoning? So he says, no, ika benayu, the difference between them is in kibel. What happens if the chatan was mekabel al atzmo to give her to eat? Masar ve'alach, right? Or also, if right now the father, he already gave her to the shluchim of the chatan, which means like this. If you remember, there are two different reasoning. When does she start? Why doesn't she start right away? So he said maybe because she's going to start giving to her family members to eat the truma, or for example, right? He comes and he says, but maybe she's going to be found a mum, and then he's going to annul the entire wedding. So says the Gemara in these two cases. For example, the chatan was mekabel alatzum to be mekadesh ota and to get married to her, even if she has a mum, even if she has a blemish. That's one nafkamina between them, right? A simbon or masar ve'alach. If right now the father gave the daughter to the shluchei abal to take her to the house, right? So therefore, she's even if she's going to eat truma now, she's not going to give it to the father or the family members. She's already on the way to the husband's house. So therefore, it would be permitted in those two. Those are the two nafkaminas, the two different shitot that we just mentioned. Two dots. Rabbi Tarfon Omer. Rabbi Tarfon says, Notnin la hakol. Right? Truma. What does that mean? We're going to give her everything. All mezonotea could be from truma. And Rabbi Akiva says, Mechza chulin u'mechza truma. Half chulin and half truma. Right? You guys listening?
Yep.
Okay. So what does that mean? Right. I see that. We're talking about truma and food. Yeah. So he says over here, what are we talking about? We're talking about that according to Shitat, right? Rabbi Akiva, giving trumot.
Not suda.
We're talking about giving trumot, yeah? So he says, Rabbi Akiva says, Mechza chuli, mechza truma. What does it mean? Half of it you have to give her is chuli, and half of it what you're giving her is teruma. But according to Shitat, Rabbi Tarfon comes and he says, everything could be even of truma. So Amar Abaye comes and he says, the machloket is bevat kohen le kohen. We're talking about a bat kohen to a kohen. What does that mean? She always anyways comes and she starts eating truma. And therefore she knows how to watch herself from truma. Aval bebat Israel le kohen. But for a bat Israel to a kohen, he comes and he says, Ledivrei hakol, according to everybody, mechza chulin u'mechza truma. According to everybody, you're going to give half-half. Which means if it's a bat Yisrael to a kohen, you have to give her half-half. But she's not accustomed to eating truma. So therefore, it's going to be difficult for her to watch over the truma to make sure that there's no problem. You understood? The Amar Abaye and Abaye says, machloket barusa. Also, the machloket is only talking about an arusa. What does it mean an arusa? Right? That he got aval benesua ledivrei hakol. If she's already married, according to everybody, it's metzah chuli metzah truma. She does not have to be toreach v'limkor truma. Right? Why? Because we don't have to start telling her, you know what? When she gets a parnasah from her husband, she could get everything truma and then she sells it. No. Half truma, half chulin. So that way, whenever she's pure and she knows how to, so she can eat the truma. Whenever she's not, she's eating the chulin and there's no problem whatsoever. Tanya Miyach, we also learned in the right that you're missing out. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Rabbi Tarfon says, Notnin la hakol truma. You're going to give her everything of truma. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Rabbi Akiva says, Mechza chulin, mechza truma, half-half. But when you mean one of these words, when a bat kohen comes and she gets married to a kohen. However, though, bat Yisrael a kohen, when it's a bat Yisrael to a kohen, the divra hakol according to everybody, mechza chulin mechza truma. When you mean one of these words, ba'arusa, aval benesua, le divra hakol mechza chulin mechza truma. Rabbi Yehuda b'metera Omer, Rabbi Yehuda b'metera says, notnin la shtei yadot shel truma ve'achat shel chulin. You could give her 2/3 truma and 1/3 chulin. Okay, that's what you're allowed to do. That means beforehand we were always talking about half-half. Now all of a sudden we brought into the concept of 2/3 and 1/3. Fourth shita, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Noten la kol truma. You give her everything truma. Vehi mocheret velokacha badamim chulin. She sells it and then she takes chulin with it. Which means you could give her the truma. There's no problem. You give her the truma. Now it's on her. So she's gonna have to go to the marketplace, sell it, and then she's gonna take the money and she could use it for chulin. That is the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabban Shimon Gamliel says, this is the fifth shita. He comes and he says, Kol makom shuskira truma notrin la kiflaim bechulin. Whenever it's mentioned truma, you have to give her double of chulin. Okay, so that's what it means over here. Kiflaim, double the shiur has to be in chulin. So, for example, if it says kav echad, you're giving it to her from the truma, you have to give her 2 kavim of chulin. So double, right, of chulin. My benai, what's the difference between the machlokets? Are you going to come and telling her that she has to come and to be torachat in order to get her seudah or not? Because if you're going to give her truma and she has to go sell it, buy the chulin. It's a lot of tircha, it's a lot of work. You understand? She just prefers give me everything ready made. The gemara. You understand? That's what she prefers. Fine. Next, 2 dots. Hayavam eno ma'achri b'truma. We said that the yavam does not give to eat truma. My tama, what's the reasoning? Kinyan kaspo merachmana. The Torah says it has to be his money, his kinyan kaspo. The high kinyan dachivu. This is not his money. This is his brother's money. Because since he's a yavam, the brother was the one that acquired her, not him. So he's just taking over for the brother. So since it's the brother's and it's not his, that's why he's not going to give her. But it doesn't matter. But it's not kinyan kaspo. So therefore, since it's not kinyan kaspo, the yavam, fine. There's the Gemara. We're on the 2 dots. What happens if she did 6 months in front of the husband and then 6 months in front of the yavam? If you already told me that she already did a whole bunch of months, the majority in front of the husband, and still she does not get the truma, so then you need this. So it's this, and you don't even have to say this mention. You don't even have to mention it. Okay? Zo Mishnah Rishona. This was the first Mishnah, but then we had Mishnah Charona. Remember, Mishnah Charona changed and said that a woman will never get truma until she actually gets married. My time, what's the reasoning of the psak of the bedin that they retracted? Amarula v'iteimen Rishon bar Yehuda says, "Who names something Rishon bar Yehuda mishum simpon." Because of simpon. What's a simpon? An entire what? A mum, defect. Right? The person comes, he gets married, he sees his wife, and he says, "Hashem Yishmor." Yeah. So he comes and he says, "Bishlama leula." I understand according to Ula, kamaita, because the first betim shemaim zegula kos vetavia. Maybe he's going to give her something to drink in her father's house, and then she's going to give it to her family members, and they're not kohanim. Ubatraita, and the last bedin, mishum simpon, they added on because of the simpon, because of the defect. Ela nulchet amubet 58b. Ela. The first case was because of simpon. What? The second case was also simpon. So my benah, what's the difference between the 2 shittot? Why are we making different halachot if it's both the same reason? What's the reason? Maybe she has a defect and he's going to retract. He's going to say Hashem Yishmor. What did he get into? So therefore he gets out of the marriage. So he says, benah, you know what it gets into? What the difference is in? Bedikat chutz, which means that she was going to be checked, right, on the outside. Okay, what does that mean? The bedikat that the kala is going to be checked by the family members of the chatan if it helps to get rid of the bedikat simpon or not. So when it comes the time of the nisuin, whether it's going to be a month or whatever it is, so then it becomes that now he's obviously obligated to start giving her money. So therefore, this is going to be the question. More so, one of them holds that the fact that somebody came and he checked her on the outside, that's already enough. More so, the other one says no. Just checking on the outside is nothing. You have to check on the inside and out. The fact that you have to check on the inside and out, so on the outside, bidika is not considered a good bidika, and therefore it doesn't help. Mishnah.
We never contemplate.
Mishnah. Nulchet amubet 58b says a Mishnah. Hamagdish maase yedei ishto harezo osa veochelet. If a person comes and she is working for the husband, and all of a sudden he comes and he says he's magdish everything that she works. So imagine she's making $100,000, boom, everything goes to the Bet HaMikdash. Magdish maaseh yedei ishto. Harezo osa veochelet. She's still allowed to come and she's doing her work and she's allowed to eat. Why? Because the Ekdesh is not Chal. She gets her own money and therefore the Ekdesh is not going to be Chal. We're going to see in the Gemara why and everything. Hamotar, if it's something which is extra more than the Chov, Rabbi Meir says it is Ekdesh. Rabbi Yochanan HaSanar says Chulin. It's not Ekdesh and it's considered Chulin. So let's see the Gemara. The Gemara says, Amar Avuna Amarav, says Avuna Amarav. יכולה אישה לומר לבעלה, אין היא נוזל ואין היא נושא. Do you know that a woman, if she's smart, she can tell her husband, you know what? Don't give me parnasa, don't give me food. Don't pay for my food, but I'm not working for you. She comes, she works, and she's making the millions, and he has to bite his tongue, as they say. But now she's keeping it for herself. She's allowed to do that. Isha יכולה אישה לומר לבעלה, אין היא ניזונת ואין היא נושא. Don't give me mezonot, but I'm not doing anything work for you. And she doesn't work for herself. Kasava, so the Rav holds, Kitakinu Rabbanan, when the rabbis came and they instituted it, mezone ikar, right? That means the mezonot was the ikar. The ikar is that the husband has to give food for the wife in order that she should have something to eat. Masechet Ketubot was only mishum eba. Her work is only because of animosity. It cannot be that you have to give her to eat, and then she goes to work, and then she also keeps it. I won. You're going to lose double. No. Because of the animosity, so therefore, if you're already giving her to eat, so she has to give you whatever she works. Right? That's mishum eba. Now, when she says, any so she's allowed to. She's allowed to come and say, I don't want to work for you, right? And I don't get the parnasa from you. No problem. She'll pay for her own food. No problem. So now we're going to come and we're going to ask the following question. Tiknu mezonot tachal Masechet Ketubot. They instituted mezonot because of Masechet Ketubot. So much of the takara, the takana, was not because of the mezonot, but rather was because of Masechet Ketubot. So therefore, it's the exact opposite. So says the Gemara, aim of the opposite. Tiknu Masechet Ketubot tachal mezonot. So says the Gemara, this is actually a proof that which it says, Matish Masechet Ketubot ishto, harei yosav ve'ochelet, my love benizonet. We hear it says if a person comes and he consecrates his wife's whatever her salary is, it's not going to be chal, and therefore she works and she's eating from it. So we're not talking about that she still gets mizonot, and she's saying, and she comes and she says, any nizonot ve'eni osa, which means that she doesn't want anything from the husband. So says the Gemara, no, be'ena nizonot, she's not getting from the husband, which means that the husband is not giving, he doesn't have money to give her to eat, and therefore, since he cannot be mefarnesota, he doesn't have the zechut to get Masechet Ketubot, so he can't consecrate it. Which means now that he doesn't get it, he cannot consecrate it. If she comes and she tells the husband, "Don't give me to eat," right, and I'm making my own money, he cannot come and say to her afterwards, "You know what, right? Your money goes to Bet HaMikdash." It doesn't work because you have no jurisdiction over her money, right? That's what it is. Okay. So if right now he comes and he says that she's not nizonet, so my lemember, then what are you talking about then? Even according to the man, a master could tell a slave, you have to work for me, but I don't have to give you the money. I don't have to give you to eat. That's not because it's not written imach. Kitov lo imach. But eved ivri dichtiv beimach. Lo. It doesn't make sense. An eved Kanani, you could come and you could tell him, listen, you have to work for me, but I'm not giving you anything to eat. You could do that. But why? It's not written kitov lo imach. But if it was written kitov lo imach, for example, in eved ivri, you're not allowed to do that. You cannot tell the eved ivri, you have to work for me, but I don't give you to eat. You work for me, automatically I have to give you to eat. So the same thing with a woman. Kol sheken is shto, right? We cannot be talking about that he doesn't have the rights of, that means he cannot come and give her to eat, and then he says, no, but I also should get the Masechet Ketubot, and therefore, obviously we're not talking about that. It does not make sense. So says the Gemara, you're right. Seifa etzichane. What is the chidush of the seifa? Motar, if there's extra. Meaning, she's making a very good salary, and there's extra money. Can he now consecrate that extra money? Because if she could come and say, listen, I'm making my money to pay for my mezonot, she could do that. But if she's making extra money, maybe that money does go to the husband. So he says, Rabbi Meir says, it's ekdesh. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it's considered a chulin. So says the Gemara, Pliga der Shakish, it argues on Resh Shakish. Why? Ta'amar Resh Shakish, which says that Resh Shakish, don't say that the reasoning of Rabbi Meir is because he holds a dam like that a person can consecrate something which didn't come into this world. Right? Because if a person right now comes and he's Magdish, Masechet Ketubot, she didn't make it was Loba Olam, it didn't come to the world yet. She didn't make the money yet. So what does that mean? Ela, he comes and he says, the reason we mean is he could force her that she should work, right, in order to make money. And therefore you're consecrating the hands. Right? You're not consecrating something that didn't come to her hands are in this world. She has her hands. Her hands is what makes the money. So therefore, you're consecrating it. So it's not because of the Shalom Olam. It says like it's kilo. You're saying that with her hands, and they are in this world. So he says, yeah, but he didn't say that. He didn't say it should be their hands. So it says no. Kevan the Shamina. So he says, Kevan the Shamina Rabbi Meir. That a person will never speak in vain. Nasa ki omeri kachu yadayich. That means even though he just said Maaseh Yadea, the Maaseh Yadea is not in the world. Like Yadea is in this world. So he comes and he says, Yikachu Yadayich Losehem is already considered. Savar Ramin says Ramin, En Adam Davar Magdish Davar Shalom Olam. What's Ramin holds that you cannot be consecrate something which is not coming to the world. Tanya, we learned in a Braita. How Meli Yisha, imagine a person comes and he says to a woman, you're going to be married to me after I convert. Right now she's a goya. He's a goy. So he comes and he says, right, you're going to be married to me after I convert. Or after you convert. Right now she's a goya. So he comes and he says, you're married to me after you convert. Or after he becomes free from being a slave. Or after she becomes free from being a slave. Or a man comes to a woman, right? You're married to me after your husband dies. So he already comes and he gives her the money. And he says, you're married to me when your husband dies. When your husband dies, boom, right? So he says, your sister dies. So he comes to the sister-in-law. No, 1 second, I didn't finish. Right? He comes to his sister-in-law. He gives her the money. He says, you're married to me after your sister dies. Or after your yavam does the chalitza. Rabbi Meir says, mekudeshet. In all these cases, she's mekudeshet. Why? Because in all these cases, but still, Rabbi Meir comes and he says, it's going to be chal. So it's mashma. Even though it's going to be davar shalom olam, it's still going to be okay. So answers the Gemara, me'ahi in. You're right. From there, it's mashma that a person could be makdish davar shalom olam. But from our Mishnah that he says the extra that was left over from Maaseh Yadayim, you cannot bring a proof of it. Meaning from these cases, you could bring a proof that you could be Magdish Davar Shalom Ba'olam, according to Shtat Rabbi Meir, but not from our Mishnah. From our Mishnah that he said that if you have extra leftover money, that could go to the Hekdesh, that there's no proof that he holds of such a thing. As we're by the two dots, we're talking about from the leftovers of the money. Rabbi Meir says it's going to be Hekdesh. Emat Kadosh. When exactly is it considered Hekdesh? Rav Shmuel both of them say kadosh. Right, the leftover which is going to be mitkadesh only after the death of the woman. When the husband comes and he inherits her, so now that leftover money belongs to him, and therefore it's going to become Hekdesh. Rav Barava says no, motar mechayim kadosh. Even during the lifetime of the woman, it's going to become kadosh, right? The extra, okay. So Havi Barav Papa comes and he asks for a question. What is the case? If you're going to tell me now, if it's going to be that he's giving her a mizonot and also giving her money for her necessities, what's the reasoning that the rabbi said lachamita kadosh? That's only going to be after lachamita. He's not giving her a mizonot and he's not giving her a maketzav tzachah. So what's the reasoning of the other one that says that mechayim it's going to be kadosh? So I'm saying really we're talking about malela mizonot. He's giving her mizonot. But he's not giving her money for other necessities. Meaning he's only giving her food. But for manicure, pedi, all that, he's not giving her nothing. So Rabbi Shmuel comes and he says, Tiknu mezonot tachat Maaseh Yadea. Numtet mudale. They instituted mezonot tachat Maaseh Yadea. U'ma kesef mitachat motar. So therefore the ma'akesef was for the extras. Okay, so since he's not giving her the ma'akesef, motar dida have belongs to her. Rabbi Barava comes and he said, "Tiknu mezonot tachat motar. U'ma kesef tachat Maaseh Yadea." The comes the mezonot. Since he gave her mezonot, motar dida have belongs to him. I might come again with some machloket, and then we continue with Zat Hashem tomorrow.